So we just finished up with James Spann and his count of April 27, 2011. And if you did, maybe you didn't know, but our own panelist, Dan Whittaker, was out in the field. I think this is before any of us knew you, Dan, but he was actually out chasing this big event. So I guess, first of all, let's kind of talk about what you were doing. How did you know to target this area? What was the game plan maybe a couple of days leading into this high impact event?
Right. So we had been looking at the storm system quite a ways out. It was showing up on long range data, I think a couple of weeks prior, and then it just kept on slowly, seemingly everything was coming together the closer we got to that April 27th date. So I was prepared pretty far in advance to get out there to Alabama was where I was loosely targeting. And a couple days ahead of time, I packed up the car and I left town the night before and stayed in the Eastern Tennessee mountains. It's Western for us if we're heading that way, but Eastern Tennessee mountains over in Chattanooga, and was prepared for whatever could happen. I've been out to Alabama a bunch of times to go follow and photograph storms, and nothing's come of it. So I didn't know what was going to happen this day.
So during the day, walk us through what it was like from the time you woke up to the time that you finally found yourself on a storm.
Right. So, I had some kind of omens, if you want to believe in that, at least. At the very least, the atmosphere was showing off for me right away. I woke up at my friend's house. He had to go to work, and it was I forget what day of the week it was, but it was a work day. And so he went to work, and I woke up at his house. He said, when you're heading out, just lock the door and behind you and be on your way. And so it was around 8 a.m. or so. I'm getting ready to leave. And there's some early morning storms happening out near Chattanooga. And one of them really started building up. I was watching on radar, and I was like, it's 8 something in the morning. I can't really look too much into this. I'm trying to head to Alabama, and I shut the door behind me. I lock the door. I get in my car, and I pull up at that time I had a full RAM mount, like a computer system in my car. I power on the laptop. It's actually this laptop that I have right here, which is now an outdated laptop system, but still has some data on it. And power on my laptop, and I open it up, and right when I get my laptop open, tornado warning, storms heading directly over my location in a matter of minutes. And there was a strong kind of velocity couplet there when I looked at the velocity data. So I was like, there's some real reason to believe that this could be a threatening storm with a tornado. And so I actually went to try and get back in my friend's house I've 5 minutes, right? So let's get back in the house. No, the door's locked. Of course, I can't get back in. And I look around, I'm in a crowded neighborhood with lots of trees everywhere. I can't even see the sky. So I think to myself, okay, well, what do I do now? Right. I don't want a tree to follow me. Right. And so I get in my car and I just start driving away from the storm through these residential roads in Chattanooga. It's hilly. I'm trying to just get out of there. I make it to a 4-road intersection, and I kind of park my car there. I'm like, this is as good as I'm going to do. At least I'm not under the trees. And I park my car there. As some really intense wind started whipping across, horizontal, windblown rain, I would just guess at 60, 70 miles an hour. And I was right there in the velocity couplet. And, it turns out there was wind damage and a tornado, but I just must have been very close. But I don't believe I was in the tornado. It was mostly, the winds changed directions eventually, but I believe it was all rear flank downdraft base kind of wind. So I drive back to my friend's house at that point after I'm kind of in that wind and rain, and it passes by me. So I know I'm safe. I just kind of drive back there because I don't know what to do with myself at this point. And And the road that I came down just a minute prior, there had been someone driving down that road and a tree fell and actually crushed their car with them in it. I got there before the emergency response did. And I just at about the same time. So I pull up and so do they. And I kind of get out of my car and I'm like, what's going on? And the emergency response person, fortunately, they started trying to do what they needed to do. And I was like, they've got it figured out. They told me to, leave them alone. So I just kept on heading on my way. I was like, I guess I'll go to Alabama now. And that's how I started my morning. So, pretty intense.
Dan,
Wow.
I have a question for you. Sorry, Evan, I didn't mean to step on you. Recollection, this was 10 years ago. So I don't think radar scope was a thing.
That's right.
How did you get this weather data while you're out in the field? I mean, it's 2011. Technology has surely come a long ways in the last 10 years, but what was it like back in 2011 getting?
You mean, what was it like using a flip phone when I was storm chasing? Yeah. So that's what I was doing. I had a GZ1 waterproof flip phone, and for data, fortunately, things were fairly advanced for the laptop systems, as long as you had a laptop system and internet and a few other things. So I had a GPS puck that logged my GPS data into the system I was using. At that time, it was I can't even remember the name of the system actually, but it was like definitely an older PC radar system that integrated with Delorme Maps was what I used to log my GPS data, and it integrated the data in. It was the only thing. At that time, it was the only program comparable to GR level 2, which is still, a top program for PCs. And, but yeah, no radar scope, no quick data via phone. Like I said in the story, I had to power up the laptop to even see what was really going on. So had that hooked up to a internet puck at that time. There was no hotspots via cell phone. So you had to have a dedicated internet puck. Also to power the computer at that time, there weren't cars built in with power inverters for things like computers, like there are now. Like the 4Runner that I own now, it just comes with power outlets, right? But at that time, there wasn't anything like that. So I actually had to have custom fuses and custom switches and custom wiring for power inverters to run my laptop system. And so it was a lot of electric based stuff and the best technology at that time just to even get online and see what was going on.
Later in the day, Dan, with all of this equipment that you had, you managed to get yourself on the Cullman, Alabama storm. The storm was severe. It produced an EF4 tornado. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience you had chasing that in the afternoon?
Right. So I made it to Alabama after my intense morning, and I'm kind of trying to figure out where to target for storms. They start kind of popping off immediately early in the afternoon. I think around 1 or 2 was the first supercell that I got on, and these storms were classic supercells popping up in every square foot of Alabama that you could put your eyes on radar. So it's just these storms are popping up all over the place, and a lot of little kind of storms, but among the mix, a lot of major strong supercells were developing that were immediately severe warned, putting down things like hail, and a lot of them were starting to go tornado warned even early on in the day. So I chased 4 different supercells, which I believe all 4 of them or 3 of them were tornado warned before I even made it to Cullman. So I had this long, for those of you who aren't as familiar with how a storm chase would work, you see a storm kind of growing either visually or on radar. The ingredients are there for that storm. Then once it grows to become a significant storm. And so you start targeting, you want to target the storm early and get to it before it basically becomes maybe, outdated, so to speak, where it's just overtaken by rain, the visuals are gone, maybe the tornado is gone too. So you want to, if you can be there at the birth of a storm and follow it through, that's ideal. Granted, these storms this day in Alabama were averaging speeds of 40 to 60 miles an hour. So it's kind of hard to stay with them, but that's why you hop around a little bit. So you would start at a storm. Here's a birth of a storm. Great. Let's see what it's going to do. It either outruns you or starts dissipating, and then you pop to the next one. So like I said, I was on, about 4 or 5 of these before I made it to Cullman. And that was a couple hours worth of chasing and driving. I'm starting to kind of almost wear down a little bit, because after you've seen 1 storm, 2 storm, 3 storm, you're like, are any of these going to produce visible tornadoes, or am I just driving under, low hanging clouds and rain and hail? And, so I'm driving towards, I guess this is where the story really starts, right? So, I'm driving towards Cullman and, into town, because I saw a really nice hooked supercell that was heading towards Cullman, and it looked great on radar. It was starting to form a really nice hook, really nice velocity couplet. By nice, I mean strong, and visually, from a radar standpoint, a strong and kind of pronounced feature that tends to, mean that the storm's going to at least go tornado warned, if not produce a tornado. And like I said, the ingredients were there. This was a day that had been forecasted for a while. We knew that this was a significant day. It was a high risk by the Storm Prediction Center. They were predicting a tornado outbreak. And so we knew it was going to happen, or at least that's what we thought was going to happen. And anyways, the storm, as it's heading towards Cullman, I drive closer, and it's the weirdest thing, because typically when I'm chasing storms, I kind of get in a position where I'm looking at the rotation part of the storm and the part of the wall cloud that is rotating and maybe going to put down a tornado. So I'm trying to be in that area, stay with that area. In this particular storm, I kind of just, as I'm driving into Cullman, I knew what storm I was going for, but I kind of look off to the side, and there in the far distance over a field is a tornado, and it's pretty far out. But I noticed it right away, and I'm like, all right, well, there you go. After 4 storms or so, and here it is. And it's there. I did it, I'm seeing a tornado right now. And this is what all my effort's been funneled to get here. And it wasn't just seeing a tornado. I need to kind of preface this. I'm a trained storm spotter at this time. I've got a couple years, 3 years of experience under my belt. I was very involved in wanting to try and collect data for historic reasons. I had 2 anemometers on my car. I was connected in to try and relay data back to the National Weather Service. And I was tracking all my movements. I was documenting everything with multiple cameras. So the idea was put myself in the close proximity to these storms, get as much data as possible, and then see how I can use that and funnel that in for any sort of storm damage or research purposes. And as well as relay storm reports to help with the public, which is it's a cutesy thing to say. A lot of storm chasers say it, whatever. But in reality, for a day like April 27, 2011, it turns out that was absolutely necessary. Not only was that something that sounds good on paper, but the people like me who are out there relaying this information and broadcasting it live actually did save lives. It was that significant footage of these storms coming and hitting towns is what actually made people get into their storm shelters and go to safe places. So anyways, I'm driving into town. I see the tornado out above a field. I had been live streaming for a little bit at that point, but I had a live stream setup going on with a HD webcam streaming to the site at that time called Chaser TV, which was in the 2010 to 2014 period. It was the hottest thing out there. The public knew to tune to Chaser TV, and the Storm Chaser show was hot, and people were thinking about storms and thinking about storm chasing. And so it had thousands and thousands of viewers that you could get access to if you streamed. And the cool thing about Chaser TV at the time too is they would pay per viewer, pay for pronounced amount of time and stuff like that. So you could actually, come out with a little bit of a paycheck at the end of it too. I start streaming this storm, and immediately I I start getting over 1,000 viewers on Chaser TV. My location is in reference to the radar that everyone's looking at. Everyone sees, wow, he's right in this hook of the Cullman storm. And they start clicking on my stream. And sure enough, they're seeing a tornado. And so they start sharing it. It starts getting shared across social media, screenshotted. And immediately that tornado in live in real time is getting shared around, the fingers of the internet in 2011. And getting rebroadcasted and put in places where people could actually see this storm. So I was live streaming it. I was filming it with another camera. We'll play kind of the video of what that ended up looking like with my other camera. And then I was taking DSLR pictures as well as running 2 anemometers and trying to stay in good proximity and location to this storm. So I was by myself, and so I was trying to do all this stuff, and as well as listen to the scanner radio. I mean, anyways, I see this tornado come through, and it's coming closer and closer. It's coming towards me. I'm trying to figure out, is this storm going to do something where it actually hits my location? Or so at one point, and you may see this in the video, where the tornado seems to get close enough to me where all of a sudden you can't really see the gray funnel anymore. Instead, you see just like a mass of dirt. And that's when I think I'm starting to get a little close there. And so I actually back up across the road that was behind me into a gas station. And in my head at that moment, I think to myself, if I drive 30 feet backwards, I can maybe avoid getting hit by this thing and still film it. So that was my thinking. And I don't think I was that close, but I was in stone's throw. I mean, I was very close. And then it kind of continues going at an angle in front and away from me. And that's when it touches down fully. You can see it, the funnel reach the ground, and the tornado becomes very pronounced, very kind of like a very defined elephant trunk. And it's kind of, not this big, wide, massive, weird wedge that we would think about when we think about EF4s and very strong, violent tornadoes. But however, and I know this from the comments on my YouTube channel, where some people are saying this isn't a true EF4. Look how skinny it is. But in reality, it's that tight, strong wind whipping around at the bottom that's causing all the damage. And it was, you can tell in the video that it's a very strong tornado, and it was a very strong and destructive tornado. It went through downtown Cullman, destroyed a number of the commercial buildings there, destroyed some houses, and ended up with multiple fatalities, including a newborn or a young child. And, it devastated the city. So as this is happening, here I am, Mr. North Carolina, out of my city in town by myself, in my storm chasing vehicle. Fortunately, I'm prepared for living multiple days out of my car if I needed to, right? That was part of my preparation. So, but I'm thinking to myself, like, what's next? What do we do now? So I tried to follow the storm. And as I keep following it, the tornado gets wider and wider, eventually wedges out into this big kind of gray wedge tornado as it goes off in the distance. The road that I try and travel down is completely covered in trees, and there's there's hundreds of, I will share a picture of it. There's just hundreds of trees down, and you could have had a whole team of people with chainsaws and you would never have gotten through that road. So at that point, I know that my access to continue following this tornado is gone. The tornado is going 60 miles an hour anyways. So it's a lost cause at that point. So I drive back towards town. And here's where it really gets interesting, because this is where things started to really take a turn as far as the reality of the storm. All I could smell was trees and fresh wood. And as I look around through the woods as I'm driving back towards Cullman, the trees are stripped of their bark. They're just bare. It's just bare wood, forests of bare wood, and twisted trees and just devastation. And I'm driving back towards Cullman to try and figure out what's my next move. And I look at the radar on my computer, and there's another storm that's tornado warned and heading right towards Cullman. That is going to be there in 20 minutes. Right. But what has just happened is a tornado just devastated Cullman. And at the same time, tornadoes were devastating Tuscaloosa and other, that's a well-known one, but there were, I think, 5 or 6 tornadoes on the ground at this very moment. And Alabama was in a mess. So Cullman was in a mess, and everybody got in their cars and drove out to the middle of the roads to try and get to their family members. Cell service was completely down at this point. I don't know if it's because cell towers were hit or if everyone was trying to use their cell phones at the same time, but there was zero cell service. You could not use it for anything. The only thing left was internet through my internet puck. So I was able to access radar data and message through some sort of messenger app I was using at that time. And I think email is what it is called. I was emailing people. So I drive back into town. The roads are crowded with people. People are kind of walking around confused. Everyone has their cell phone in their hand. Like, what is this? It's not doing anything. And they see that I'm a storm chaser. I have stormsquad.net on the side of my vehicle and stuff. They start coming up to my car and they're saying, what happened? We're trying to get in touch with our family members. We can't do it. We heard the town was hit. And I was able to actually give as many people as I could the information that I had, which was, there was a tornado. It hit part of town. There's another storm coming. You're going to want to find a place to take refuge. I had a CB radio in my car at that time with a speaker. I got on my CB radio and started driving around and saying there's another tornado warning coming, because nobody knew. And I drove around the town and yelled at people to find safe shelter. And that was really harrowing. Like, I don't know if that's the right word. There's no words to describe. I mean, it was very sobering. I mean, just like, I was focused. I was trying to, at that point, just go into like storm recovery mode. I'm now part of this Cullman community, right? So how do I help them? And yeah, that was not my last storm of the day. So I actually left Cullman and went and got on another supercell at that point, because there's nothing else I could do in Cullman that, short of, I warned everyone I could. The storm didn't hit there, so I left. I went out to go get to another storm and chased 2 more tornado warned supercells. Nothing really produced from those. And then the sun started going down, and still no cell service. But I have my radio police scanner and fire EMS scanner, and I'm hearing that reports that there are no gas stations and no gas available to the first responders. And I look at my gas tank at that moment. The sun was just starting to set. I look at my gas tank and I'm on less than a quarter of a tank. Hadn't anticipated on there not being any gas in the state of Alabama. Right. And so with very little gas and a lot more storms, all tornado warned, heading my direction, and now it's dark out, I had to do what I now refer to as a kind of a intense game of avoid the tornado for the next few hours. I did it on zero gas. So what I had to do is I would drive out to somewhere where I thought was in between 2 supercells heading my way, because there was just groups of supercells just over and over and over again, all tornado warned. So I'd drive where I thought I was going to be in between the 2. No cell phone service and limited radar at this point because internet was dicey out where I was. And then I'd turn off my car and I'd just sit there in the pitch black and just watch the lightning, both the storms pass on either side of me. I'd turn back on the car, get the laptop back up, see the next radar run, and figure out my next spot to go to try and be safe. And I did that for a few hours until eventually it seemed clear enough for me to actually get to a city on my zero gas. So I found a city. I don't even remember what the name of the city was, but it's probably 100 miles, 50 to 100 miles from Cullman at that point in Alabama, central Alabama. And I get to the hotel and they say, we don't have power, but you're going to have to pay full price. Sorry. And nobody has power, nobody has gas. And I said, do you know where the nearest gas station is that has gas? And they said, we're hearing reports that there isn't any gas except for far eastern Alabama on the eastern Georgia, Alabama line. Other than that, nowhere else, even west of here, north of here, south of here, no one has gas. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'm staying here for the night. And so I had just filmed all this video. So I went ahead and I had no power, no gas, but I did have an external battery that I brought with me to power an emergency battery pack to power things like laptops and stuff. So went ahead and plugged in my laptop, fired it up, got my video uploaded to YouTube. It was my second video I'd ever uploaded to YouTube. The first one was a tornado 2 weeks prior in Alabama, coincidentally, and close by. And this was my second video. And I get it up there. I shut down everything because the battery's going to die. Done for the night. I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning, and the video's got like 80,000 views on it. And my inbox is just full of people saying, "Can we use the video? Can we use the video? Can we use the video?" Just my email's blown up, and I'm like, wow, I guess that's, this was in 2011 before viral videos was really a thing. YouTube's kind of new at this point. And I created, like, at that time, a newsy viral video, and I didn't even know what to think of it. I'd never really seen viral videos at that time. So I was like, well, that's interesting, and whatever. I mean, it's a historic day. So I knew that, my footage was, I'm glad people are seeing it, please share it, and ended up driving to a gas station that was about an hour and a half away from my hotel. And I didn't think I was going to make it. But that was the closest gas station. I, called around. I did everything I could to source a gas station. That was it. It was like on the border. So I just drove that direction on no gas. I was on fumes the whole time. And I got to the gas station, and I'm literally like, you can hear the gas running out and the car sputtering and stuff. So I cut the car off in the line. There was a humongous line going out around the road, circling all around. Fire trucks are coming in, skirting in front of the public to get all the gas. EMS, they're coming in. It's the only gas station that had gas. And so I sit in the back of the line. There's maybe 50 cars in front of me. And I turn off my car, and I literally kept it in neutral and pushed the car most of the way to get to the gas tank, / rolled it part of the direction, and rolled it just down the hill with gravity. And I made it to a gas tank after about, I think it was about 2 hours of sitting there in line, and made it to a gas station and made it to the pump, and was able to get enough gas in the car, and drove back to North Carolina that morning. So I kind of just went through the story there. I mean, I don't know. There's of course more to be said, but that's kind of my experience being there right in central Alabama. I mean, the in and the out, at least the basic summary. So
Dan, I'm curious. I've been storm chasing once, and the adrenaline rush you get as you see a tornado, obviously peaks up, and then you kind of go into recovery mode, hoping that everyone's okay. Did you experience that adrenaline rush when you were witnessing this?
Yeah. Definitely. During the Cullman tornado, it was when I first saw it. And for those first few minutes, especially, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And that adrenaline really kicked in. Here I am. It's real. I'm on a tornado. This is a high risk day. These storms are explosive. And I knew that something bad could really happen. And so yeah, the adrenaline popped in at that moment. But it's the weirdest thing. One of the comments on my YouTube video is, why is there no screaming? Where's all the screaming? Where's all the yelling? This is like the calmest tornado video I've ever seen, besides Pico's Hank. And and it was just my adrenaline turned into straight focus. So after I kind of had an initial I was just 100% zoned in on my task. I mean, you could call it focused. You could also call it busy. I mean, navigating the anemometers, the laptop, the cameras, the live stream, and driving and parking and whatever, running, in my raw video of the tornado, there's me like zooming back and forth in front of the dash cam, because I'm like, who knows what I'm doing? I'm probably setting a GoPro here and turning this thing that way. And I was very busy and very focused. So it just all turned into that. And then eventually, right near the end of the day, a lot of adrenaline and focus kind of wears down to just like, now I'm playing dodge the tornadoes at night. And that part was a little, I wish I could have been back in North Carolina at that point.
Dan, real quick before we wrap, can you talk a little bit about the gravitas of watching the storm, the tornado as it came through Cullman, and afterwards understanding that while you were watching it, it killed 6 people?
So, I've been at some devastating tornadoes before, but I think the thing that made this more real, and I've been at some killer tornadoes before. I think the thing that made this so real in this particular one is because a lot of people died this day in Alabama, and it was the total destruction of the state. Seeing the Cullman tornado, unless I had actually seen it hit the specific buildings and stuff, it was hard to make a direct connection to who died or how they died or where they died. I did end up seeing the commercial destruction downtown, and that was intense. Seeing that, because you're seeing people wandering around, picking up bricks and trying to figure out what to do. It's like walking into a house that was just completely destroyed by like a group of toddlers, and I say that as a owner of a toddler. I have a 3-year-old, and sometimes you just walk into a room and you say, what happened? And you just pull your hair and you scratch your head and you say, I can't even figure out where to start. Everything's destroyed. And it was the same way watching these people trying to figure out what to do in downtown Cullman, just walking around devastated. And that was really sobering. But the thing that really affected me the most, honestly, was seeing people looking for their loved ones and not having a way to find out where their loved ones were. No cell phone reception, no communication, and being stuck in traffic, and another tornado warning that's coming. So these people are in a bad predicament, and only I knew what was going on. So I was in this really weird place of, nobody knows, and they're all unsafe, and they're all just trying to help their loved ones out. So that was probably the hardest part to be a part of, but the part that I'm most grateful that I was a part of, because I could help, but also because that's the reality of these big storm events is that's what's happening in these communities. And sometimes you don't see that on the news, or you don't know about that, but there's moments there where we're all just trying to look out for each other. And those are the hardest moments.
Well, Dan, we certainly appreciate your time and reflecting back on this very somber event that took place on April 27th, 2011. So we thank you and James Spann for sharing their stories of this tragic day, and our thoughts and prayers are still with those folks who are reliving this 10 years later in the state of Alabama. For everyone here at the Carolina Weather Group, we hope you have a great evening, and we'll see you back here real soon.